better than your currency. Splurging millions, buying houses like Monopoly. Fucking 9 to 5, man, the money is a joke to me. Buying cryptocurrency, my money in the privacy.
Hey guys and girls, welcome to this week's episode of the No.B.Invested Birchy podcast. I'm your host, Nathan Birch, and this is the show unraveling the truth to the facade of the 21st century. We're now exiting the Matrix and waking up to motherfucking reality. And reality, it's going to be fun with our guest here today. We've got Jeremy Johnson. Thanks a lot for
great being here, Nathan.
hopping on the podcast. Thank you.
Off the phone for a few seconds while I talk to you.
Yeah, maybe just give everyone a quick minute, 2 minutes of what you do.
What I do is that, people call up and everybody who really calls in has been interested in the properties that Nathan is. They've either been following you for a long while or they've suddenly seen an ad, we got a $200,000 or $150,000 property that we're pulling in $400 a week for. And so they call, this is what I want in my life. I want to be cash flow positive. So they call up, they don't know that much about us. So you take them through what it is that we do. And you always stress, look, we're here for the long term. It's a great team of people. We look after you holistically to get you to where you want to go. But ultimately, it's, we're here to get you to what you want to do, not what we want to do. And explain to them what we don't do first so as we don't waste time, sort of trying to, sell them on something that we don't do. We're like, we don't do house and land packages. We don't do off the plan. We don't like granny flats. We look only at the bottom line, the money and what we can do to get you more of it and get you out of work.
So now that Jeremy's given you a job description of what he does, Jeremy's our investor relations manager. An investor. Yeah, one of the investor relations
but
managers.
he's the longest, I guess you could say.
How long have you been with us for now?
5.5 years.
5.5 years, mate.
It's the longest job that I've ever had.
Yeah. Isn't this like one of your first jobs?
Well, first job whereby I've had to look, what on earth is PAYG? What the hell is super? Who would need superannuation? What is that? That sort of job. Yeah. Other than that, everything's work, Nathan. No matter what.
Of course. And looking at that, like you've been with us for 5.5 years now. It feels like yesterday, but we've been through a lot over the years.
We've been through a lot. They're
different
all ups
markets,
and downs.
Ups and downs.
And that's what people have got to really realise now. That now we're seeing rising interest rates, so people are suddenly getting scared.
Yeah.
And they think, what's going to happen? I'm just going to be losing thousands and thousands every month if I go into property now.
Yeah.
And they don't realise that, look, everything goes in cycles. What goes up must come down. We haven't even reached the interest rates it was in 2012.
Exactly.
And we're unlikely to as well.
Everyone's going to go broke where they are now.
Everyone thinks it's going to be an absolute, disaster. And no government wants that to happen under their watch.
Yeah.
So what you explain to people is that, look, shorten your discretionary income. But now is one of the best times to get into property because people are scared and we're getting these unbelievable deals.
What are some of the things, like being here for 5.5 years, what are some of the things that you've seen people do over that time, like some of the results?
Well, look, we won't mention their name, but look, these clients that came over, they were in Western Australia, they came over here and the wife flew over here in 2019 just to meet us because she said, if I'm going to be with you for the long term, I want to see you face to face. She showed up and said, this is what I want to achieve.
Yeah.
And last week, and I sent you the text, we completed everything that they wanted to achieve.
And they just bought their farm.
And they bought their farm. She's been able to quit her job. Yeah. And we did really well for them. And she's so happy with what we did for them to get them to their place. And, we were with them every step of the way, and it's not easy. Building a property portfolio isn't an easy thing. Yeah. But it's not like you sit back and just the money comes in. Like it doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
You have to be proactive.
Yeah.
We will do the heavy lifting for you, but you can't just expect that, I bought a property, it's just going to sit there. It is an asset that you've got to look after.
We know when we're buying properties, we see properties every day. We go through thousands of properties every week, and probably 80% of the properties out there people are losing money on over the last 10 years. Not everyone makes money on properties out there, and it's important getting the right ones that have got the cash flow, got the equity, got the growth, and the right strategy behind it too. And one property ain't going to get someone retired. Most of our investors have double-digit portfolios. They don't come to us with great amounts of wealth. They start off small, 20 grand, 50 grand, 100 grand, and build up from there.
And it's not immediate because they think, will I be able to go back and pull out cash immediately from the property?
Yeah.
And sometimes you can say, look, we're pretty certain given what we're seeing in the area, you can. But the reason we're in here is because the cash flow is really good, but we're also seeing the economic factors for this area. So maybe not in the next 2 months, but maybe by the end of the year, you can pull out
maybe 6 months.
Yeah, 6 months. But at the same time, you're buying multiple properties.
Yeah.
Some are obviously going to appreciate in value quicker than others.
Yeah.
And it's like, and I use longevity and the entrance as a reason from about 5 years ago. There's no difference between these properties. There's just one bridge apart. But for some reason, longevity went up really, really quickly. And whereas the entrance took a bit longer, but they're still pulling out 200 grand at the end of the day. But it just took longer. There's no rhyme or reason for why this, should happen.
They share the same postcode.
Same postcode.
Same postcode.
And no one's got a crystal ball, but you've got a very good feeling for this area, given where you see things are happening. We're seeing decentralisation happening all the time now.
Yeah. And I guess that's what our podcast today is all about, Jeremy, like decentralisation, being able to live sustainable, live life on your terms. Over the last 5.5 years, you've spoken to thousands of people.
Yes.
All different walks of life.
Yes.
People with collars and shirts, people with, high vis, people, in all different positions in life. And, you've seen them be able to break through barriers to get to where they want to be. And financial freedom for people, the one thing we do know is different. Some people want to go and travel. Some people want to go and do, look after animals. Some people want to go and look after their kids. Everybody's position is different. Some people just don't want to sit on Parramatta Road in a Toyota Camry for 3 hours a day while getting through traffic.
For the next 30 years.
Next 30 years of life.
Yeah, they don't want to do that.
Paying off their HECS.
Paying off their HECS. And that's the best debt to have. If you're going to have a debt, HECS debt's probably the best, the ones the banks are most forgiving on, but there's anyone to be paying off.
But you're stuck in it. Even if someone goes bankrupt, you're still stuck on your HECS debt. You can't get rid of it. You can't shake it.
You can't shake it. But if you're able to get a loan and you can pay it down, happy days.
Yeah.
And people only get HECS debts because they're going into jobs that are going to provide them the income to be able to pay it off.
Yeah.
It's just, it's a basic thing to do. But you're actually seeing now, as opposed to 5 years ago, there are less people saying, I want to be able to travel.
Yeah.
You don't see that. I'm hardly getting that at all now. I want to go and buy this shit.
The new wealthy is not being tied to a job. New wealthy is having a farm, having a veggie patch, having the ability to go to the beach and live your life, which I think is really cool. And that's what we want to talk about today, Jeremy. So what does being self-sufficient and self-sustainable mean to you, and what are you doing about it yourself, and how are your investors being able to do that themselves?
I think, look, it depends on what people want to do. Obviously, when it comes to, owning a farm and living on the land and stuff, if you've got kids, you want them to get a good education. Yeah. And that there are a lot of things that stops people doing that. There aren't the schools, and that's just the reality. The education in this country, they've really kept it in the cities to encourage people to stay here. You're not going to get the same at Walgett High as you can get at Sydney Grammar Kings or or Shaw. That's just a reality. But it's something that everyone wants to be able to do, but it requires work and effort. And I know this when I came back from Texas. You lived amongst these richest people on the planet, and especially in the 90s when America was at its zenith of its might and power. It would never be as wealthy as it was in the late 90s. Yeah. And these people, they lived like dogs as far as I could see. The water was undrinkable. Great people, unbelievable, the most generous people in the world, the Texans. I just love them and I miss them. Yeah. But I just looked at this food you're eating. You live in this huge Georgian mansion, and it's all air conditioned, it's costing you a fortune. Your standard of living isn't as high as what you can have back in Australia, where you can have your own water, you can grow your own food, you've got really clean air, not, the stink of Pasadena and the oil refineries wafting over you every
Apart
morning.
from if they put HARP and chemtrails over your house.
Yeah, and chemtrails.
They're doing it everywhere.
Everywhere, that's what they're doing. And just corrupting every facet of your land, because even in the bush in Texas, you're just looking at rivers that look like Coca-Cola. The sound of the oil decks going ka-chunk, 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 ka-chunk in the background. Yeah, you've got money, but you don't have a lifestyle. And in Australia, we've got this, and it's cheap. Yeah. You know what I mean? To get rid, you take out the 3-hour circumference around Sydney, you can get beautiful land. So long as you get land and water, you got water on your land, is the most important thing, you've got gold.
Yeah. So from that perspective, like, we're now seeing a world, people are starting to, do you remember years ago, Jeremy, like 4 years, 5 years ago, I talked about hyperinflation and everyone laughed at me. And they're like, Birchy, get off the drinks, get off the alcohol, get off the drugs, whatever. I was writing all these comments on YouTube videos. It was pretty funny because I never touched it. But when we look back at the period of time, people didn't even know. You never heard anyone talk about inflation. I was talking about hyperinflation. Never talked about zero interest rate policy, but now we've got zero interest rate. It's come up from there, but that's just a part that'll pass. And we'll go to negative, and we'll see the crash of our currency, and we are starting to see countries go into default, and we are starting to see them go bankrupt and default on their debt. And we look at that and we think, okay, now we're starting to see high levels of inflation. We've got food prices. Nestle came out the other day and said they're putting up their prices another 10% this year, or 11%, which went up 8% last year. So even buying a poisonous chocolate bar, or the chemicals
preservative laden, which is just hands you to the pharmaceuticals. The purpose of our food chain is to make you as sick as possible. So by the time you're finished at the tax office, you can now be passed over to Big Pharma to be able to sort of like make them a lot of money. We're literally living in a pod feeding the corporations. That's what it's for. And you're right. Only today I was looking at that. They've got lines around the block at University of New South Wales at the food hub because the students cannot afford to buy food. And they literally have to go and line up for free food. You register. And I'm just thinking, this is just absolutely appalling.
Yeah.
That in a first world country, we've got kids that can't afford to eat.
So bad.
It's so bad.
It's so bad. I've spoken about this in great lengths, and it's got fallen on deaf ears, but now we're seeing the ramifications of it. People are scared or think that, your mortgage going up is bad, or, whatever. Imagine when the food goes up. Like, we've now got oil costs, we've got coal prices, right? People don't care about commodity prices, but when you look at that and you go, okay, oil prices have gone up, those trucks that deliver the food needs to be passed on. The electricity that runs the things needs to go up. So everything's rising in value. It's like, how do we protect ourselves? How do we hedge ourselves against inflation? And, what we do tremendously well here is we build cash flow streams for people, and we build portfolios where they can, live life on their terms by removing themselves from their job and creating extra levels of income. However, what do you do after that? And we're seeing a big trend of people changing, going to that self-sufficient life, and having access to the food chain. I said on a Facebook Live the other day, very important, probably the best investment someone could have, it's basically free, is to have your own veggie garden. And all it is throwing your food scraps out. Your strawberries have the seeds on the outside. Your avocado seed you can chop and use.
It'll take 7 or 8 years, but you can actually do it.
Your corn, you just rip all the edge of the corn, and people don't realise how easy it is to germinate food just from their fruit and vegetables, and that's sort of why in Birch Feed, people that are listening to this that have never heard of Birch Feed, they can go to birchfeed.com, birchfeed.com, and join up. It's free. Don't need to be a tight ass. It's free. I just share random stuff. Sometimes I'll send 5 things in a day. Sometimes I'll send 1 or 2 things every second day. But we've shared in there over the years how to germinate food, how to germinate, certain fruit and vegetables and whatnot, especially around the start of 2020 when things got weird in the supermarket. For people to be able to do that. So what sort of things are you doing and preparing for? And you talked about the food being poisonous. What are your concerns in the world today? What are you doing to prepare yourself? And what are your clients concerned about? And what are they doing to prepare themselves? And how does it all gel together, Jerry?
Look, I'd say as far as the clients, I'll speak about them first. Most of them want to give their kids a good life.
Yeah.
The ones that have kids, most of them want to get out of the matrix and not be working 9 to 5 at a job for the rest of their lives. They want to build a passive income, and they're willing to put in the hard yard to do it now, and not go out for dinner every night, and not, or at least 2 or 3 nights a week. For me, because I'm living here in the city, right? I live in Kellyville Ridge. I just grow as much herbs and stuff as I possibly can. I just got 5 meters of parsley.
Yeah.
So I've got, and that can do everything. Luckily, I love the stuff, so I can just rip out a mouthful and do that. I don't need to go to the shops to buy vegetables. I can just have a huge chunk of that, twice a day or something, and it keeps reseeding.
And doesn't have the chemical sprayed on it.
It's no chemicals, no nothing. It's really important. You've got to keep, soil is everything. You can, a few square meters will give you and your family enough food to keep going all the time.
I just bought these things, raised garden beds. So I tried creating garden beds on the ground, timber, all that sort of stuff, pain in the ass. I moved house recently, so I needed to set it all up again. I bought these things, $500 each. You can get cheaper ones that are like a couple $100, but I went the big one. 4 metre by 1 metre by 1 metre raised garden beds. They're all one piece, and you just fill them up with soil, and you can put it in your backyard. If you've got 4 metres of space, you can chuck in a garden bed. That'll keep probably 2 people's worth of food and vegetables.
But you've got to be careful of soil. Like, you just can't go to Bunnings and
get the one with the fertilizer.
But even the organic, it's not good. You have to prepare your beds and stuff like that. Even if you can go into the bush somewhere, and where that is uncontaminated, and you build and you go and get a really good soil from somewhere, and then you add your food scraps and compost. You don't ever throw out food.
I noticed that the food that I was feeding the chickens stopped laying eggs because of the food. Something was poisoning them, right? And I started feeding them back on food scraps and recycling all the food scraps, and they start spitting out eggs again. So it's very important what you eat, and the food that you're consuming is poisonous. And if you can, it's not only poisonous, but I remember talking about it to Pat from your team, and he one day came on Facebook Live, and he had a bag full of groceries from Coles, and I'm laughing started. It was literally, he paid 10 cents for his bag, and it had like $50 worth of shit in it, and the bag wasn't full. It was just like having your laptop and your charger in the bag. It looked that small for $50, and people are going to not be able to afford to eat very shortly.
But all of us we got to reduce the amount we eat. We eat so much. We've got to reduce by 2/3. Because if suddenly everything was to, collapse tomorrow, no more trucks coming to Woolies or Coles for whatever reason, and you have to go from eating 3 square meals a day and that amount down to nothing, you're going to go ballistic.
Yeah.
And you'd be surprised how easy it is just to live on 1 meal a day.
Intermittent fasting.
You know what I mean? And just intermittent fasting. It makes you stronger, and it also keeps the doctor away at the same time, because food isn't our friend, really, and especially this stuff with all the preservative stuff in it. It's not good for you, and it's designed to kill you. The deep fryer is really, it's a short road to diabetes.
And the reason why I trust Jeremy on this, I'm going to ask you a question, Jeremy, and just expose something about you. How old are you?
60.
60. This guy's 60. He's got less grey hair than I do.
But it's also genetics as well.
Exactly. It is, to a level. But you practice what you preach, right? I've seen you do water fasting. I've seen you do fasting.
Water fasting, but I love my coffee, and I love cigarettes, and I love Coca-Cola.
So you're a smoker, right?
I love smoking.
And there you go, right? So there is genetics there, but there's also choices that you make. So there's lifestyle things that you can do, and it's all in moderation. But it's like also what can you do to try and tell me about why you water fast and why you fast.
Water fast is like, and Wayne, my other colleague, he did it for 4 days a couple of weeks ago as well. The reason I do it is because the body is a miraculous piece of machinery. It will go in as soon as you're not producing food, and the body has to sort of process food. The body can go and heal whatever organs need to be healed itself. It'll just go in and look for work to do. So over those 4 to 7 days that you do, you go up and down in terms of your energy levels. But the body goes into self-repair. I mean, if I got really chronically sick, it'd probably be the first thing I do for 2 weeks is a water diet.
Yeah.
And then go and, worry about anything. I hope, and no one knows, if you're given a life-threatening diagnosis, you do anything, you know what I mean? Like the doctor said, you're going to die if you don't do this. If you don't take chemo, if you don't take radiation, you're going to be dead. Well, I don't think they're great things at all. I've seen everybody I know who's ever got cancer's died.
Yeah.
We're all going to die. That's just an inevitability. But quality of life is absolutely fundamental to our way of being. And you make these choices, and the more you do look after your body, and and don't eat hamburgers all the time. I love them, but be judicious in what you do, and don't eat a lot. Just eat less, and don't watch television. Ever. Just chuck it out the window. Seriously.
Exactly.
I mean, COVID would never have got away with what it got if 1% of the population in Sydney or Melbourne had just gone in front of Parliament House and thrown their television sets. So you'd have 5,000 or 50,000 TV sets in front of Parliament House. They would have shit their pants.
Yeah.
They would never have been able to do it, because they're using this weapon, and it's the greatest weapon that's ever been produced in the modern epoch.
In World War II, they shot with a gun. Now they've got NBC suits shooting.
And it's funny, television was
war.
first aired in 1939, the year that World War II broke out.
Crazy. Yeah.
Was the year, and they did it, and it was first aired on April the 30th, the night of Walpurgisnacht, the Witches' Sabbath, was when they put. And it's only got worse. You can imagine what it would have been like, if Cardi B had appeared in the middle of I Love Lucy. So, folks, this is what your grandkids and great-grandkids are going to be watching in 70 years on TV. There would be no television now. It would have been banned by Congress.
Imagine if great-grandparents and our ancestors, this is way off topic, but imagine they come back today and they look at what's going on, the purple hair, the pink hair, the blue hair, the green hair. No offence to anyone that's got that in their hair, but we see that there's lots of different colours that are out there, and it's like that's the world we live in.
Or just like chicks dressed like are you a prostitute?
People, but it's like all different things, right? Like you see on the TV, they're dressed like the devil, right?
Yeah, you see it all. They welcome it. It's absolutely shameless,
And it's like a ceremony that they're doing, and people idolise these characters and these people. Symbolism. Yes.
Symbolism is everything, and you don't know what you're being. You don't know what you're being fed, but you are being fed something subliminally. Don't look at it.
I love watching it to find the symbols. It's like a different story. Like when I see something, I'm like, wow, you're really doing that. It's like how the heads or how the placed it, or the colour scheme, or the way that the stage is set up, in the shape that it is, or
they do then their hand signals and all that type of thing. Obviously, it's all symbolism, and it's not symbolism to anything that's positive or going to help humanity.
And talking about that, like just on the last idol that people go to, they say, there's Warren Buffett bloke, right? He's a great old man. He's a lovely old man, right? And they get him and he sips on his little Coca-Cola. It's like, I have a sip of Coke. I have a drink of Coca-Cola every day, and I eat McDonald's, right?
Yeah.
When you look deeper, you go, well, this guy is the big shareholder in McDonald's, and he's also the big shareholder in Coca-Cola. So he's bought into McDonald's to then build his business around stitching Coca-Cola into that, and he's putting it there to say, look, I'm a healthy old man and just do what I have, it's okay. And people idolise this guy, right? And it's the food that we're putting in ourselves. People say quite often to me, I used to eat this back in the 90s, I used to feed this to my kids, you had that growing up, right? Like people would say this stuff, but it's like, no, the ingredients in the food is very different, right? What's in milk today, right? Unhomogenized milk, right? Can you sell it? No, it's illegal to do, right?
Yeah, you can't. But remember, years ago, if you had milk in your coffee, after a while you get a skin because it had cream in it. Now it's got nothing in it. It's virtually a sort of toxic brew. Even going to some of these juice places where they've got all it is are herbicide cocktails. They're not organic juices.
Oranges is the biggest chemical thing ever, right? Like oranges. I was researching this the other day because I love oranges. I
love them. My favourite thing in the world.
But they're the most genetically modified thing and most chemical infused. Like you're literally just drinking glyphosate.
Yeah, and unfortunately, that's the other thing that glyphosate. It's in everything. Even you're making your compost.
Yeah.
If you're using vegetable scraps, you're actually adding glyphosate to the. What Monsanto has done to our health is just it's criminal. It truly is. It's a disaster for humanity.
I've seen people that have had glyphosate fall on their body parts on limb. I know someone that had on their toe went black, and they got bone cancer very soon after, right? I've seen the articles about these things. Yeah. Not mentioning names, though, but the active ingredient for a lot of these chemicals is glyphosate. So,
and it's just so deadly to the thing. And you're seeing this. They don't really want to expose how bad all this is because these are the big money generators.
Yeah.
For the government, you saw what happened with Ohio recently with that.
Which one? There's every day. There's been like 10 of them this week.
And that coincided with a film that was made exactly about this story.
Like the lockdowns that happened 2 years ago or 3 years ago.
And you're actually seeing it replicated. Everything is planned, but the fact is that they don't want to talk about it or even acknowledge it. Where's Greta Thunberg now?
Well, I haven't seen her going over to Saudi Arabia and really getting to the source of this. Why doesn't she go there, right? Why doesn't she go to these places?
The idea that we take these autistic children and put them out front in itself is a horrible thing to do. It's like what they've done with the president. Why would you take up someone who's got dementia and make them leader of the free world. That is a horrible.
But they're not the leader of the free world. They're just the avatar.
Well, yeah,
they're
whatever they. But
avatar.
even as an avatar, it's a horrible thing to do to a human being. You know what I mean? To actually take someone with dementia and go, "You're going to be president of the United States," and we'll just push you around.
It's funny, like just on that one, right? You see his ears, right? And you look at back when he was Obama's sidekick, he had earlobes, right?
Oh, yeah,
and now he
but
doesn't have earlobes, right? It's like literally a different ear. Go check it out. Go research it, guys. It's in all the
face
photos.
mask,
You can't, the ears, they're attached. It looks like a different bloke. But anyway, it's a
Well, it
different.
probably is. I mean, I do believe they've got all that face stuff.
Yeah.
They can do. It could be anyone. Or they don't. Who knows? You know, we don't know. But I don't look at him. I don't listen to him. So
Exactly.
it makes no difference to me.
And your life is very good, Jeremy. Like you.
My life
you're
is very good. I have no complaints whatsoever. Look, you know, I enjoy working here, but I'm also doing a PhD. You know, I've got all. You know, work is everything. You know what I mean? Like I must say, I had a good time in my youth, and when things were a lot more fun. I've got to say, they were fun in the 80s and 90s. I feel really bad for this upcoming generation. You don't have it as good as I had it, and I'm the first generation in hundreds of years that can look at a generation and not say, you don't know how lucky you are. You know, like my dad and my grandfather said to him. You know, I actually look and say, you don't have it good.
I was driving here in my 1970 Kingswood, right? And I was sitting there driving, and it's like the things are sliding all around, right? I'm driving to the office. And I was thinking, right, like looking at the people today and looking at the whole last 38 years of my life, and then you've been here for 60 years, right?
Yes, I
and
have.
then things have never gotten better, right? Like I remember when I was a kid, there was no such thing as a 40 zone, a 50 zone, a roundabout, or all those traffic island things that slow you down driving down, right? There wasn't someone to pull you over for a driver's test. People didn't have a camera in your face all day. You're not always in Big Brother. And now it's only going to get progressively worse as we go to social credit system.
Well, we're not going to go into that. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I'm not going to go into that.
Well, I'm not and you're not, but 95% of the people that last year were forced to do certain things, other people are going to be forced to enter that system, and we want to be self-sufficient.
Yeah, but you are forced, and this is the thing, is that you're not forced. If you make government your religion, yes, you will be forced, and you think that they've got your interest at heart, you're making a huge mistake. They do not have, and they don't have that much power in themselves. They've got a huge lot of lobbyists and a huge lot of think tanks that are taking their calls from what's going on overseas for Australia. Where they're sort of like Stephen in Django Unchained. They're like the house Negroes.
I think that
the economy.
I think that when we look at the government, it's really just middle management, or it's like they're peasant. Like if we look at it, it's like the third level of chain, and there's like 13 levels of chain, right?
But the important thing is, yes, you've got to live life, whatever it means, living it on your terms. Do not live for the approval of others. That is the most important thing in life. You must live according to a universal truth and have dignity about what you do. And just remember, we are an extraordinary species of human being. We are capable of so much more, and you must not let people enslave you to do anything that is going to just be a pawn for other people.
Exactly. We're born, life goes very quick, and you need to enjoy it. And I feel bad, like when I hop out in traffic, I don't like going out in traffic. I go out drive around times that do not involve traffic, because
I don't even like red lights.
I don't like red lights, so I try and take every way here without a light.
Exactly.
And it's something that I just look around me and I think all the people that are stuck in this lifestyle, like it is a sad existence, because I've been there and I've been able to push free, and I see the difference of it. Probably the thing this year more around the living, sustainable and that. I wanted to be healthy, right? Because I've always pushed myself and set up money and all that sort of stuff. And I realised recently I look like a cartoon character. I'm getting that fat. And,
but you came back from. You just look like a completely different human being, because you've been living out of the city.
Exactly.
You were living up on the Central Coast, and you are living a much healthier lifestyle. The air's better, the food's better.
Being able to walk every day, being able to do that. I walk around the local shopping centre and I see body shapes, and like lots of body shapes. I don't even know what you'd call those shapes, right? They don't have shapes. You have a square, a rectangle, a circle, an oval, a rhombus. But I don't know the shapes of some of these things, right? And it's like, how did people's genetics, our bodies are being destroyed by the food we're consuming, by the
but also
the
by
toxic
sedentary
lifestyle.
We're sitting in front of LED screens.
Exactly. LED lights.
LED lights, and we just do a roll and scroll in the food court, and it's not good.
Rubber soles on our shoes that are connecting us taking us back from being able to ground ourselves. We're electronic entities, and
EMF waves.
Exactly. We've got Wi-Fi going all around us everywhere, no matter where we go.
Yeah, well, and so the minute you get out of that, and that's what's really good about Australia, is that they really screwed up with the NBN rollout. They could not get us to all be connected. And just because all the different lobbyists and everything made sure it didn't work. But, there are black spots between here and Canberra. We just don't have that. And so if you want to live off grid, you can. But people just want to we've got to be connected somehow,
And there's a final thing, right? Like, we look at the world that we're going to. We've got gas cars, electric cars, all that stuff. These cars, I think of a car like these electric vehicles. When everyone says that they're buying an electric vehicle, I'm like, it's the dumbest thing I could ever think of, right? Because it can lock you in it and drive you to the drive you to the police station. You've been a bad. You didn't agree with the government, the communist agenda that occurred. You can only travel 5 kilometres in your vehicle, right? You've driven too much this week. You ate too much meat this week, right? Like, literally, it's people's prisons. They don't realise that in 10, 20 years' time they'll be looking back going, shit, this is real. But every country around the world has now got these 15-minute, 20-minute cities, which is trapping people, which is just locking people into a city so they can control them even harder, and then forcing people out of rural and regional sort of areas where people can actually have the freedom to control their life. They can't.
Good luck in Australia. Yeah. Good luck in Australia.
Yeah.
And I think, just as my final thought here, I know that you're not a great monarchist. I know this, Nathan. I'm not a monarchist either. I do love.
I just don't like commies.
Yeah.
I just don't like commies.
But what I know is that we're going to have a referendum in the next 18 months or so. Will we become a republic? And you can see the media gunning for this already. We can't really govern ourselves. We have a lot of protection under the Crown, and the only model they're going to be using is China. And so we will, and the first thing they're going to do is, like, the property prices are expensive, it'll all be owned by the state. Yeah. And this is the first thing that they're going to do. Yeah. We will walk into this trap. So we've got to be very careful when they're offering us, the money or the box.
You go to areas, right, like Governor Macquarie or Governor this, right? They came and invaded this land or did whatever they did, right? But we didn't have the governor come in, he gets a 300 square metre block with no eaves on his house, right? He had a suburb named after him, or a suburb named after this person. And when you look at it, like, there's a thing when it ties back to our property investing journey. People are called landlords, right? Yes. But they don't know what they're called landlords for, right? Because they used to be the lord of the land, right? But they aren't anymore, right? And that was the wealthy controlled the land. But now people are getting less and less ability to be able to control the amount of land, the amount of property, the amount of things. So I think it will become more of a luxury item to own a property. If you look at New York, they don't own properties in there. Like, you go to a 1990s episode of Seinfeld and they're really excited. I've just got myself a new property. It's like, yeah, we've got the lease on the property, right? And people have their expectation is to rent the thing. They don't have the expectation to own. I think we're going to see the central banks come and bail out, and I think we're going to see the financial services sector be able to come through and wipe out a lot of people and take ownership for a lot more property. So they will be the landlord, not private citizens.
Yeah, and if they go into that 50-50, where the government go, I'll come in to buy with you, it's like, don't ever fall for that one.
That's the first step.
That's the first step. And property is still 9/10 of the law under common law, based on the Magna Carta, which is property rights, because up until then, no one had it. Everything belonged to the king or to the pope or to the emperor. And suddenly, like, no, you have control of your own life and you have the right to property.
Yeah.
And that's where it all came from, and they don't want to advertise this. That's why everything's always in a cycle of bust. There's never been any good news on property ever, and you'll never see it on the news.
Yeah.
They're always about to crash. Property prices, I've heard, for 50 years is going to go to half in Sydney. When has that happened?
I'm still waiting. But all the poor people that waited for it to drop in half when Corona came, and we saw all the stimulus packages come through, we saw the money coming into the market, and that told the different story. So.
Yeah, absolutely. But they'll just don't buy into anything. Just throw away your TV. That's all I can say. Please, for the love of God, throw away your television set.
So throw away the TV. Have wealth so you're not tied to a job, not tied to a city. have control of your own food and water and energy sources.
Yes.
Yeah.
And gold is the other good thing too.
Gold.
Have
Gold and
something.
silver, yeah.
Yeah, gold and silver. Just
Crypto.
And crypto, if you know, we don't know where that's going to go.
Exactly. I'd rather have the gold and silver.
Yeah, rather have it in solid assets because, 60% of the planet really believe that gold and silver is worth
It's
something.
got the kings and queens printed on for millennium, right? And it's for a reason, right? There's been what's ruled the land is the metal, and it's only recent times that we've been removed from that. So
They don't. Anytime they say we want you to sell, they know it's because it's valuable to you and it gives you freedom.
Yeah.
And by taking it away from you and offering you cash for it,
Yeah.
you're being divested of your own dignity and your own rights and property.
60 years, you've seen a lot. You've seen good, the bad, the ugly. Obviously, this is the ugliest time any of us would have seen.
This is the ugliest time I've ever seen in my life. Yes, I've got to say I've not seen any time ugly, and I never saw it coming.
Yeah.
I did not see the end of, I guess you can honestly say, Western civilization in the 1980s. I thought we would keep going, and we would reinvent ourselves, and we couldn't reinvent ourselves, and became completely nihilistic. Once postmodernism happened, and no one believes in anything, and that's why it's so easy to be controlled when you give your control over to something like the government and think they're the ones that are going to look after you.
Yeah.
And they have no interest.
Exactly. So, but in it being the ugliest time, I think the most opportunistic time. That's the way they get
Best
people.
time to
That's
be
what
in
gets
Australia.
people.
Our history's going to start very soon, and you've got to have you've got to put yourself in a position to be able to. We will be going into battle. In the not too near distant future, but you want to be starting on the right foot, not be taken off guard.
Yeah, having control of your life is the most important thing I think anyone can have.
Yes,
personal liberty and freedom. You have that if you have cash flow, you have capital, you have assets, you have options. Properties are really just an option for people to trade against something else. The system is designed.
You're doing something for someone else. You're giving them an opportunity, providing accommodation for people, and you make the choice whether you want to be a landlord or a slumlord.
Yeah.
And the thing is that you have an opportunity with wherever you go and whatever you buy to make this a decent place. And yes, you've got to look after your asset.
Yeah.
But ultimately, what you're doing, you're giving dignity to someone else.
Exactly. If you didn't have that property, no one would have the ability to rent it. Things would be tougher, higher rents and all that sort of stuff. So the opportunities are out there. If it wasn't for this big, giant Ponzi scheme that they've created, we wouldn't all be successful. People go, property's in a bubble, all this sort of stuff. The whole monetary system's in a bubble. And if it wasn't for the fact that we had cheap money, easy money, a whole economy built on the fact that people go and pull equity and buy a car, pull equity, buy furniture, pull equity, go do a renovation. If that stops, well, then the whole economy stops, which we're starting to see. And I think that 2023 is going to be very harsh for a lot of people. But I'm very excited because I see what comes past that, because they only have a limited amount of buttons they can push to fix things. And I'm very optimistic about 2023. What about yourself?
Always optimism's the only way to be.
Yeah.
You can't be pessimistic and just think, everything's going to hell in a handbasket. I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to wait until Armageddon happens. Pointless, It's like waiting for a ship to capsize and not do anything. Help yourself.
I've never been so excited as what I have been for 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023. It's just a cool time to be alive. A lot of people can't say that. But when you see the opportunity,
it's a good time to be alive. I never thought I would be living in days like this. I did not see it happening. Okay, but it's a great privilege to live at these times, because these times have been prophesized in all the testaments and religions. We knew about these times were coming. You just didn't realize it was going to happen like that.
You can only read about things that have happened throughout history and make, presumptions about people or characters or people that have been talked about, but we're literally in them, and we can make conscious decisions based on what we're seeing and the information that's out there. If you dig a little bit, if you're talking about what's being fed to you, that's not information, that's propaganda. It's important to go and research information and make your own conclusion with critical thinking. And unfortunately, for a lot of people, they don't do critical thinking in 2023 or 2021.
It has gone out. It has gone out the window. That means whatever we say, go and do your due diligence. Go and do
trust
your
nothing.
research.
Do what works.
You've got to do your own. You've got to do your own research on something in order to know it's true. You've got to test it out.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you don't know it's true or not until you actually do it. You don't listen to anybody without testing it out and seeing for yourself.
My first flyer that I ever created back in 2009 for B.Invested had this thing that said, leave the emotion on the table, and numbers don't lie. Right? And it's all about the numbers. So your emotions can tell you something, your friends and family can tell you something, your parents can tell you something, your colleagues can tell you something, but the facts are in the numbers, the facts are in the data, the facts are in the reality of what's out there. Do your own research, make sure everything stacks up, and keep asking questions and seeking for the truth. So for people to contact us, how do we get in contact with Jeremy? Email us at admin@beinvested.com.au, call us. 1300 367 925.
Is that our number?
That is our number, Jeremy.
I have no idea.
I've said it on thousands of videos over the years.
I've never remember that number.
1300 367 925. So people can call us. And that's how everyone calls you, Jeremy. That's everyone. You have these conversations. They call you.
They do call on the phone.
So you can get Jeremy on that. If you like the video, make sure you share it with your friends and family. Keep searching. Don't be happy with the answers you're given. Make sure you keep digging and find whatever's going to get you to where
you want to be.
And we've
got a great team. We have a great team of people in investor relations who just every one of them look after clients like I have never seen when I listen to them and see what they go and do. Because it's not just 9 to 5. If you can call us at any within reason, obviously.
I see you guys doing emails at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night, going, "Hey,
absolutely.
Someone sent something."
Because everybody's working. They're all working, so they have the same issues that we have. I can't do things within office hours, therefore I'll get back to you. I have to look at this property tonight when I get back to work. It might be gone by then. We do encourage it, and we're not pushing for us, we're pushing so we don't lose it, because the market is hot, and everyone wants a deal.
Very hot market out there.
It is a very
contrarian to what the TV says.
But if you're watching television, everything's contrary to what the TV says, unless you live and die by what Kochi says. And
I've seen those lives over the years. So on that note, guys, if you do like our content, smash up a like, share it, and make sure you follow us on all social medias. You can find us at Spotify, Google Play, Apple Play, YouTube, and we're out every Thursday. And if you have any questions, leave a comment below. We'll catch up soon. Have a great one, and keep being awesome. Thanks, Jeremy.
Thanks.
Keep being awesome.
Keep being awesome, Nathan.
Like Bilal said, man, we're stuck in the matrix. This my advice, don't care if you take it. The dollar about to die, soon to be hyperinflated. This my 2 cents, don't care if you save it. Join be decentralized and you will see you've been lied to the whole time, and it's the irony, cause they do the exact opposite. You become a slave to the system, enough your money, all they do is profit. There's no conspiracy theory, you better hear me. Crypto will set you free before the system does. I don't care if you do or you don't, but what I'm saying is the truth to the reason you choke. I've never been a failure, excuse my behavior. Keep talking, haters doing me a favor. And you're telling lies, I know what they been telling you. I'm the opposite, the Donald Trump of Australia. It's amazing, here for the taking. My time is never wasted, just getting wasted.